This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, good morning. Let's continue our session. In the previous session, we discussed use case, right? So how to integrate with database. For that, bunch of prerequisites are required. We discussed we need Oracle XC database. Of course, it is not just limited to Oracle XC database. You can go with any database. I shown you in the previous session what are all the different databases supported by Oracle server, Oracle Server server. Okay, so you can go with any database. So I'm using Oracle XC because it's a lightweight version and I'm using my local host. I installed it in my local host, so I don't want to go with a enterprise application or the full version. Okay, it's a lightweight version. So, and then we need to configure server level DB connection, which is nothing but DB adapter JNDI, ultimately DB adapter JNDI. I mean, internally it has two parts: data source JNDI, DB adapter JNDI. Okay, I showed you this configuration in the previous session, and then this is server level configuration. This is over. Now we need to have a table. We need to have a table in the database. For that, I'm using either SQL Developer tool. There is a tool called SQL Developer, or you can also use JDeveloper. Any tool is fine. Both are IDEs. So we used JDeveloper as a DB interaction tool, and we created a table called student info. Okay, right. So from here, what I want to do now, we need to create our Java program. Sorry, now we need to create our SOA program based on the requirement. Okay, so what we need to do, go to JDeveloper. Okay, yesterday we created this table, and we also check our table whether it is created or not. Let me check that. If I run this, it will ask me to select the DB connection. This is the connection we created yesterday. Just say okay. Okay, we have the table. Right? What I will do is, guys, in this table, I don't want total marks. Let me drop the table. I want to extend the example anyway. I don't want this field. Yesterday I created it, but I don't want it. I want to form a use case for you to show you different operations. We'll do the total marks calculation separately. I just want to show you without calculating the total marks. Okay, done. Table created. Let me use this table. Okay, right. So now let's go to our SOA program. So this is our SOA program. So whenever you want to configure DB adapter in your SOA program, okay, you must have a connection between JDeveloper and database. Okay, before you start your program, make sure you already have a DB connection in your JDeveloper. Okay, so anyway, we already created a database connection in our JDeveloper. Okay, this is the connection we already created in the previous session, right? So I can use this connection at any number of places in my JDeveloper. So actually I created this for my SQL script to create the table in the database, to run the SQL select statement. Okay, but the same connection you can use even in the program, your SOA program. Okay, suppose if you are not interested to use this connection, of course you can create a new connection, not an issue. It's the same connection again. Okay, so now go back to your program. So here what I want to do, I want to configure a DB adapter which should allow the program to insert the data in a table. Okay, now so go to component list. You can see the DB adapter here. DB adapter, database adapter, drag drop it. It's a very easy configuration, but try to understand the steps. Okay, so what we want to do, I want to student info insert. Okay, it's a DB adapter insert operation. insert operation student info. That's it. This is the data I want to insert. Okay, you can give some naming convention. It is always good practice. It is always good to do the proper naming convention. Okay, by looking into the name, we should understand something, what is going on in that specific component. Okay, right. So I just provided a name. Name is always user defined. Click next. Now see this, guys. This is very important screen. There are two connections we need to provide here. This is the first connection is between JDeveloper and database. This is a database connection, but this is between JDeveloper and database. Let me browse the connections. We already have connections. Suppose, guys, when you are open this pop-up, when you click on this icon, sometimes it will be like this. I mean, see, there is no OK button. Let me expand it. See, this copy button will miss sometimes. So if the window is small, you don't see the copy button sometimes. Okay, you need to expand it. Just expand it. Okay, and select the DB connection whichever you want. So this is my DB connection between JDeveloper and database. Understand the connections here. This is JDeveloper to database connection. Say copy connection. Okay, so it got copied. Just say OK and close that pop-up. So connection copied. So this is JDeveloper to database. Have a note of it. Here we are providing the second connection. This must be SOA server and database. This is a second connection, SOA server and database. Okay, so SOA server to database is nothing but our DB adapter JNDI. DB adapter JNDI, right? So copy the DB adapter JNDI. Of course, if you don't remember, what you can do, you can go to your WebLogic console, localhost 701/console. Go to your WebLogic console. There you can see your JNDI, whichever we configured in the previous session, right? Localhost. Okay, let it log in. But meantime, let me continue the program. So you can go to console and copy the JNDI name. Otherwise, I already placed it in my notepad file, so I'm just copying it. Okay, come back to your program. Say provide the JNDI connection. Provide the JNDI connection. Okay, click next. Now see this, guys. Hope you understand, right? This there we are providing in step number 2. We are providing two different connections. One is JDeveloper to database. Another is SOA server to database. Okay. So guys, this JDeveloper to database connection is design time connection. I mean the program development. At the time of program development, we will use this connection. But after deployment, this connection is no more used. After deployment, this connection is no more used. After deployment, the bottom one is a runtime connection. This connection will be used when you are executing your program. Okay, so that you need to remember. These two are two different purposes. One is design time connection, one is runtime connection. Okay, at runtime, the above connection will not do anything. At design time, below connection will not do anything. Okay, suppose if I provided EIS DB ABC, actually we don't have a JNDI called ABC, but if you provide at the time of program development, you don't see any problem. But when you are executing the program, you will see a failure because there is no JNDI called ABC. Okay, just remember this part. So go to next. You can see here different database operations we can perform. Different database operations. Okay, so you can execute a pure SQL. Pure SQL means you can write your SQL statement, select star from table, something you can write the SQL statement. So we have different operations here. Right now, I want to perform insert or update. Insert or update. Okay. I want to perform insert or update. I mean, I want to insert the data into table, but similar data is already available in table. I want to overwrite it, update. Clear? So you can try different operations, guys. I mean, I'm showing you one operation, but you can try all the different operations here. Okay. I will try to cover possible operations in the session, but it is not possible to cover everything, right? So you can do some R&D, come back with your questions. Okay. I am selecting insert or update operation. Click next. Now, so here it is asking us to select the table, in which table you want to insert the data. So here I want to import the table. Guys, why I am importing the table? Here importing table means it's actually not importing the table. We are actually importing the structure of the table, because adapter, the purpose of adapter is we want to integrate non-web service end systems by using the adapters. Okay, when we are configuring adapter, the adapter wizard will build a WSDL for you. To build a WSDL, we need XSD. XSD is nothing but structure of the data. So our table structure is nothing but structure of our data. So here in this screen, we are trying to import table. Indirectly, we are looking for table structure, table definition. With the table structure, we are going to form an XSD. Similar thing we did in the file adapter as well, right? We browse the sample file. File adapter uses the sample file to build the XSD. So here we are using table structure to build the XSD. Okay, just remember these points. So now import table. So guys, it is already we provided the JDeveloper to database connection. So it is showing all the schemas of our database. So we need system schema. Our table is in system schema. Okay. So if you keep percentage here, query, all tables will come. All tables will come in the search result. So what is our table name? Student info. This is our table. Okay. Suppose if you remember some part of the name, you can search like this: STUs percentage query. So now you can see the table names, what are all starts with STU, that will be displayed here. Okay. So now if you click this button, that means you are importing the structure of the table. You are importing the structure of the table. You are not importing the data of the table. Let's assume table contains some data. You are not importing the data. Your concentration is not on the data. Your concentration is the structure. Okay, this adapter is trying to capture the structure of table. Based on that, your adapter will build an XSD. Okay, say OK button. Now you can see our adapter imported the structure of the table. Okay, click next. See this, this is our table structure. Student info is the name of the table. Student info is the name of the table, which contains student ID, student name, English, Hindi, maths marks. So these are all the different columns we can see in the table. Okay. So guys, it is asking define a primary key. Define a primary key. In my table, when I am creating the table, I did not define the primary key, but adapter will not work without primary key. So what it is asking, let's assume a field as primary key. Suppose I am assuming student ID as a primary key. It doesn't mean you are altering your table in the database. Okay, this primary key student ID will behave as a primary key within the limits of this adapter. What we said, this is the primary key, right? That won't really affect our actual table. Okay, but adapter will not work without primary key. So it is asking us to assume at least one key as the primary key. Okay, but this assumption will not affect our table. Our table still remains same. There is no primary key in our table. Okay, click next. So if we have any relational tables, we can browse here. As of now, we don't have any relational tables. So let's go to the next screen. Now about filtering. Suppose guys, in my table, there are 5 fields. One field we are assuming as primary key. So it is a mandatory field to include. Other 4 fields are not primary keys. Let's assume your table contains 50 fields. So we want to insert the data. We don't insert all 50 fields. It's not mandatory to insert data into all 50 fields, right? So if you want to exclude anything, you don't want to insert data in a specific field, you can exclude that. Okay, so but now in the current requirement, we want to insert all the data. That's why I selected everything, but it's not mandatory to select everything. Only primary key is mandatory. Other fields you can, if you want to insert the data, select them. If you don't want to insert them, you can deselect it. Okay, done. Click next and finish. That's it. So we are ready with the DB adapter. Observe guys, DB adapter, when we configure a DB adapter, there are a bunch of files created. See this JCA file. Let me JCA file, and then mappings.xml, properties.xml, mappings.xml, properties.xml, and we will have XSD, and we will have wisdom. Okay, so these are all the files created when you configure DB adapter with CRUD operation. DB adapter with, okay, CRUD operation. So CRUD operations are nothing but we selected the insert operation, right? Let me edit it. So this bunch is this bunch. You can see this bunch. Perform an operation on a table. This is CRUD operation. So in this, anything you select, any operation you select, these are all the files will be created. JCA file, mappings.xml, properties.xml, XSD, and wisdom. Okay, you can observe here. But suppose if you are doing the same file adapter, when you are doing file adapter, you will have a JCA file, XSD file, wisdom file. That's it, 3 files. If you configure the file adapter, only 3 files will be configured. But when you are configuring the DB adapter, additional 2 files will come, mappings.xml and properties.xml. You just open the files and observe. Of course, they are XML content. Okay, they are XML content, and you can just open it and read it. You will understand what is this file contains. This file contains the mapping and the definition of the table. Okay, the overall DB infrastructure will be saved into these 2 files. Okay, table related. Okay, now from here onwards, it is normal program, like how we communicate, how we integrate any reference component. The same approach we need to continue. So what I want to do, let me create a wire between BPEL and the DB adapter. Then go to your BPEL process, open your BPEL process. Here you can see the partner link, a DB adapter as partner link, DB insert student info. I want to integrate that. For that, I want to use a scope activity. Let me drop a scope activity, a new scope activity. I will name it as scope DB insert. Just for our convenience, I am giving this naming conventions. It is not mandatory to follow the same naming convention, but it is always a good practice to give proper naming convention. Then now let me use an invoke activities. See guys, any external component, any reference component, if you want to integrate, same approach you need to follow. Okay, so invoke this DB adapter. You will get a pop-up. You can give a meaningful name, invoke stu info or DB insert something. Invoke DB, and you can create the invoke input variable. I want to make it local variable. Invoke DB insert. Okay, invoke DB insert input variable. Invoke DB insert input variable. I'm creating a local variable. Of course, here you can give insert. Okay, some naming convention. Say okay. Okay, so our DB adapter is ready. Now we need to transform the data from input variable to DB adapter input variable. DB adapter input variable is nothing but this invoke input variable. Okay, let me do the transformation. So we need to go with XSLT. Just create the transformation. My source variable is input variable, and my target variable is data DB invoke input variable. Then give a meaningful naming convention for this transformation. What convention I'm following here? Something this. Okay. Let me do it again. Browse the source variable. Browse the target variable. Okay. I will name it as file read to db insert. Okay, db insert, file read to db insert, some naming convention. Done. It is the normal transformation. We need to go with a for loop. We need to go with a for loop. I need to create a for loop. Just do the mapping with the for loop. So under the for loop, whatever mappings you do, that will be iterated under for loop. SID, SNAME. So here I'm not calculating the total marks, just observe. I'm just inserting the data, that's it. I'm not calculating the total marks. Anyway, I will do that a little bit later. I will extend this example. Okay, done. So this is how you can do the transformation. Now what happened? Your program is going to read the file. The file contains some data, and then we are writing the file into outbound folder, and then we are also inserting the data into a DB table. Okay, done. Now let's deploy the program. Let's deploy the program and see how it is working. See here in WebLogic console, let's say you want to revisit your DB adapter JNDA, what you can do, deployments, same navigation you need to follow. Deployments, you will see all the deployments. One of the deployment is DB adapter. If you open the DB adapter navigation, you can see the JNDA name. Let's do that. Deployed composites, practice adapters. And yeah, let this guy load practice adapters. Meantime, go to WebLogic console, and you can see all the deployments here. You can see DB adapter. Open DB adapter. Once you open DB adapter, you can see the list of JNDAs which we already configured. I mean, meantime, while the deployment is going on, I just want to show you the WebLogic console. That's it. So the same navigation, if you follow, you can see the list of JNDA. Suppose you forgot the JNDA name, you can again come back to this navigation. You can see, you can get the name of the JNDA. Okay, right. Anyway, let's test our program. I want to test my program. How we can test it? Let's go to this student XYZ, open. So guys, I want to prepare some more data here. Okay, around 21 records. Let me give some numbers, unique numbers. I'm just preparing the test data, nothing else. Okay, done. Make sure guys, there are no empty lines, after the last record. Save it. STU, this is our file. So how to test this program? We need to place the file in inbound folder. Let me go to inbound folder. Let me go to inbound folder, practice adapters, example 1, inbound folder. Similarly, I want outbound folder. Just to watch it, I mean, already we know our outbound folder is working. Okay, I want to check this outbound folder. What else? Archive folder also you can verify. And you can also verify the DB table. Let's say DB table. If you run the table, select statement, select star from STU info, you can see actually there is no data. There is no data, right? Now let's place this file student XYZ in the inbound folder. Once you place this file, it must be processed. So what is our expectation now? Two outbounds we have. Number one, there must be an outbound file. There must be an outbound file created in your outbound folder and data inserted into table. Let's check the outbound file first. This is the file, right? This is the file created on 17th. Open it and verify whether it is working as expected or not. See, we got all the records along with total marks. Okay, outbound file is good. Now go to your table. If you check the table, run the select statement. Now you can see the data inserted into table. See the data inserted into table. Correct? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, suppose if I run the same data, of course I will change the file name. I will name it as xyz2. Okay, if I drop this file here, observe what will happen. See, file picked up, and you can observe a new outbound file. You can observe a new outbound file. But if you go to database, what happened? You can see only the 21 records because what is the operation we selected? Insert or update operation. Correct?
Yes, sir.
At the time of DB adapter configuration, we selected insert or update operation, and we are using a student ID as the primary key. So what happened when I am processing the same data? So while inserting the data into table, it contains student ID. It already contains the same student ID, so that say existing student ID will be updated. Let me show you in a different way. So this 102 record, let me change the 102 record. Okay, I just made some changes in 102 record. Just observe what is going to happen. I will name it as stu3. Okay, place this file in the inbound folder. Picked up a new file created, and then go to your database. See 102. 102 is the old. This is the old data. Let's execute the file. Execute the select statement. See, observe 102 updated with the updated information. Not only 102, all records updated, but other records we did not modify the data, right? So you are not getting the feel. That's it. All records are updated. If the specific student ID, suppose let's say if I give a new record 122, okay, something, save it, complete information, it will do either update or insert or update operation. Done. So now what is our expectation? Existing records will be updated, new records will be inserted. Okay, processed. So let's go and execute the select statement. See here, we got a new record. So what you need to observe is it is doing either insert or updating. That is based on the primary key. But student ID is not defined as primary key in database. It is defined as primary key in your DB adapter level only. Okay, but that won't reflect your database table. Any questions as of now from anyone? Any questions? Is it clear? Right. So let me expand this example a little bit more. So what I want to do is, See guys, if I am placing a file in the inbound folder and I am generating an outbound file, just observe outbound file. So what is the naming convention here? STU result, something like this, right? Suppose let's say if I place two files, if I place these two files in my inbound folder, anyway, my program is going to process them and it will create outbound files. It created outbound file, but can you tell me which outbound file is student info outbound, which outbound file is student xyz4 outbound? Is it possible to tell? No, right? Suppose let's say if I place 10 inbound files, you understand the requirement or not? You listen the requirement. I want to place 10 inbound files. Okay. Your program is going to read all 10 inbound files and create 10 outbound files, no doubt in that. But how we can correlate which outbound file is related to which inbound file? You understand the requirement or not? Okay, so of course you can open each file by looking into the data. Maybe you can compare inbound file and outbound file by looking into the data. You can definitely match it, but that is a little difficult process. Okay, so there is a best practice when we are doing this kind of things. There is a best practice. So what is that? I want to control the outbound file name. So here, if you see this is the system generated outbound file name. Of course, we only configured the file name expression in the file write adapter. Okay, but this is not much helpful for me. I want to have complete control on the file name. Okay, so what we can do is in our program, in our file read adapter and write adapter, we have options to control the file names. Okay, what I will do, I will show you two things here. Okay, how to read inbound file name, how to read inbound file name. We'll do this. Okay, and then I will show you how to set a dynamic file name to outbound file. How to set dynamic file name to outbound file. These are two different things, guys. We are going to use these two things to achieve one functionality. Okay, my functionality is whatever the inbound file name is coming, the same name I want to maintain for my outbound file. Whatever the inbound file name is coming, the same file name I want to give it to my outbound file. Is it clear? So to achieve this requirement, I need to know two different things. How to read the inbound file name, how to set a dynamic name to my outbound file. So with a combination of these two exercises, I can control my outbound file name. Okay, so my requirement is I don't want to give system generated file name for the outbound file. I want to use inbound file name as outbound file name. Is it clear? Is the requirement clear for everybody? Okay, right. So this is very simple. Let's see the first one, how to read inbound file name. So it's very simple, guys. If you go to your Beeple process, first create a global variable. First create a global variable. I will name it as file name. Okay, file name, just a variable. And I want to make it a string type variable, string type. Okay, it's a string type variable. Apply and okay, done. Now what I want to do, go to your pick activity or on message branch inside pick activity, or you can also do the same thing on receive activity. Okay, go to properties, here you can see bunch of properties, guys. Click plus icon, you can see few properties, adapter related properties. These are header properties of the adapter. Adapter holds two different types of data. One is content, actual content. I mean, let's say this file adapter, if you take the example of our current file adapter, it is reading a file, right? The file content is one part of the data. Metadata of the file is second part of the data. Okay, metadata of the file. So when I said metadata of the file, it is name of the file, size of the file. Okay, this kind of information we can say metadata of the file, directory of the file. So I mean location of the file. These information we can read by using metadata properties. So whatever properties I'm showing you are metadata properties. Okay. If you see this list here, you can see all the adapter related metadata properties, all adapters. So these all are B2B, BPEL, okay. So many things you can see, but right now we want to see JCA adapters. Our adapters are called JCA adapters, right? JCA dot, our adapter name is file adapter. Go to JCA dot file adapter. You can see JCA dot AQ, JCA dot DB, JCA dot file. See, these are all the different properties you can use. Right now, I want to utilize the property called JCA dot file dot file name. JCA dot file dot file name. And this property contains the file name, inbound file name. That file name I want to store in a variable. I want to store it in a variable. Done. File name I stored in a simple type variable. Over. In this property, this is the metadata property of your file adapter. This property contains the file name. I stored the file name here. Done. That's it. Click OK. Now what happened? This part completed. How to read the inbound file name? Done. We are good to read the file name. Okay. Now I want to set the file name to my outbound file. So what you can do, go to your file write adapter, invoke activity, open this guy. Again, go to the same properties. Here also you can see the properties. Okay, so in the on message branch, we read the property. In invoke activity, we need to set the property. We need to set. Okay, what is the property? This time again, JCA dot file name. JCA dot file name. Okay, so this time we are setting the property. Last time we read on message branch, we read the property. Now we set the property. Of course, where is the file name? File name is available in the file name variable. Done. Okay, so now we are whatever the file name this variable contains, that file name we are setting to this property. Okay, done. That's it. Okay, now deploy the program and test the program again. Okay, deployment finished. Now observe. Let me place 3 files. STUABC. I will place these 3 files into my inbound folder. See the outbound, how it looks like now. Observe your outbound. See, we have same naming convention. Of course, processed data processed. We got the total marks, but the file name, instead of system generated file name with this timestamp, it is using the metadata property to set the file name. Okay, now what happened? Now you can easily correlate, right? Our inbound file is student ABC. This is our inbound file. And then we have a respective outbound file. Student ABC is the respective outbound file with the total marks, processed data. This is inbound file and this is outbound file. So even though you place 100 files in inbound folder, 100 outbound files will be generated and there is this file name we can utilize as a correlation. Any questions? It's not mandatory to use this file naming practice. It's not mandatory, but I want to show you, I want to introduce, there is something called metadata properties. How you want to utilize is your option. Okay, as per business requirement, you can utilize them. But I just want to show you, there is a feature in Sova Suite. You can read the metadata of the inbound file. You can set the metadata of the outbound file. Is it clear? Any questions from anyone? Any questions? This part is clear, how to read the inbound file and how to set the dynamic outbound file. Okay, so that is about metadata. Whenever it is really required, you can utilize them. It's not mandatory to do it. Okay, so just observe, guys. This file adapter already have the outbound file naming expression, but we also have the metadata property setting. So when we have both together, metadata property setting has high priority. That's what the reason your program outbound file is using metadata property. So metadata property has high priority, even though adapter contains the file name expression. When file name expression and metadata property both were configured, so metadata property has high priority. Okay. Any questions still now? Any questions from anyone? No? Of course, you can go to your enterprise manager, you can watch the instances. Whatever we are testing, every run you will get an instance. Okay.
Hello,
So
sir.
that's it. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, up to this we have no doubt, sir, but I have one doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
If input file has a 1 GB, is it acceptable by file reader adapter, sir?
It's no. I mean, it's not about 1 GB. It's not about 1 GB. It depends on your server's capability. Okay. So your server, what level of JVM parameters configured at server level. Based on that, your program will process the data. But anyway, whatever may be the limitation of the file size, okay, there is an option. You can read the file as parts. Okay, there is an option. You can read file as parts. I mean, you don't need to read the file as an entire object. Okay, you have an option here. If you see, you can use file streaming. Okay, and there is another option. Where is it? We must have file chunk option as well. Okay, see this chunked read. So if you think your inbound file is huge size, okay, because at the time of requirement itself we will understand, right? So what is the size of the file? Okay, so we will ask the requirement, right? So we ask them, show me the sample, what is the maximum size. So if you think your file size is really big, so instead of going with read file, we go with chunked read. Chunked read means, suppose let's assume my file contains 1000 records. I can read my file into two parts. I can give the size 50 records as one chunk. Then what happened? Your file contains 100 records. Then your adapter will read first 50 records as one set, second 50 records as second set. So this way you can avoid the size issues.
Okay.
Is it clear? Okay. So if you really think your file is really big, either go with read the file as attachment, but at the same time we have limitations. If you go with read the file as attachment, the content will not be converted into XML format. Again, you need to process the data. We have functions to convert attachment into XML. Okay, so this is purely depends on requirement. So your file is really big, whether you want to go with attachment or you want to go with chunked read. Chunked read means one file will be processed multiple times as subparts. So if there are 200 records, your chunk size is 50 records. It will process the file in 4 attempts. 50 records as one part, 50 records as second part, 50 records as third part, 50 records as fourth part. Okay, that way you need to manage the huge files. But remember guys, SOA is not for bulk data processing. You have a mechanism here, no doubt, but SOA is not for bulk data processing. Okay, suppose there are 1 lakh records or 10 lakh records. According to the size of the records, we need to decide how many records it need to process. Okay, but it is not really suggestible to process really big data. Yeah, any other questions? Right. So in the last session, I told you to go through the adapters documentation, right? So if you go through the adapter documentation, each option is explained. Okay. So in the adapter, whatever options we have, see there are multiple options here. Here you can see multiple options, right? So if you go through that specific document, each option will be explained. Just go through that and come back with your questions. Otherwise, you can click on the help button in this screen, whatever screen you have a question. Suppose in this screen you have a question, open the screen and click help button. Okay. If you click help button, some help documentation will be opened. Okay. On that screen, whatever options we have, all the options will be discussed here. Okay, so if you don't understand something, you can come back to me with your question, right? So I mean, easiest way to for quick reference. Okay, so that's about it for today. Let me stop my recording.